Good morning, Jake Livingston, planning operations for the Cameron Peak incident, and I'll give you an update on the operations we have for today. Starting out with the weather, we can expect temperatures up in the fire area to be in the mid-80s, low 70s to mid-80s. Humidity's 9 to 19%, and winds will be west-northwest 15 to 20, gusts to 25 up on the ridge tops. So windy up there, and then if those humidities get down to the single digits, that's when we can expect to see an increase in fire behavior, especially for temperatures in the mid-80s up at those elevations. The fire activity yesterday, the most active portion was up on the northern end, northeast end, along the Highway 14 corridor. Above it, up on this the Green Ridge, the bench up there, and the east side started to show more signs of activity, and then down toward on the south end in the Long Draw Road area. So we'll continue to keep an eye on all that today, and we'll have air attack up throughout the day to keep an eye on that for us. Starting out in Division Alpha Zulu, they're still monitoring along the 103 Laramie River Road. They'll keep an eye on that for the next several days. And also keeping an eye on this western flank, but as you remember me mentioning previously, there is the high elevation ridge line above tree line tundra, and then rock and dirt up there that this fire edge is held up against here, where it shows 6% containment. Up in Division Foxtrot, still cleaning up portions of the contingency line. Minor cleanup issues, just using chippers and whatnot. However, over on the west end toward the Alpha Foxtrot break, they have skidder operations there, just removing some of the trees that the feller bunchers had removed in previous operations. Over in Division Lima in Romeo, still some cleanup on those contingency lines that are south of Crystal Lakes and Redfeather Lakes and Glacier View. So they're cleaning up those lines. Just some limbs and whatnot that are stacked along the roadway, so they'll go through there with some ground personnel and chip that up. But the majority of those personnel's in Lima and in Romeo, working off the 173 road, prepping that road, removing hazard trees, doing some limbing. Portions of it they're using equipment on. And as you come down toward the Kilpecker radio tower, they do have some dozer work that they're doing out there to connect the 517 Alpha Road to what the Division Romeo resources are doing up off the bottom. As mentioned previously, they have that hand line that goes up to where the terrain levels out, and then they'll connect that hand line to where the dozers are operating. Out in Division Uniform, just monitoring what they've done before in Pingree Park Road. Remember, it's all prepped and plumbed with equipment all throughout that, but their main operations are Crown Point Road. They have feller bunchers and skidders working on the portion of it closer to Pingree Park Road, and then as you go further out, we have some hand crews, hotshot crews, Type 2 IA crews, and wildfire modules working in the wilderness there, connecting that road system to the tree line, and then they're cutting out some low saddles that have some timber. It is pretty labor intensive due to the beetle kill in that area. But given the predicted weather, as far as fire weather conditions over the next several days, and on Monday night they're expecting snowfall in the high elevations up in the fire area. So with those weather conditions, they're going to work through half of the day today and then pull out of there, and then just help as needed throughout the rest of the fire. So that's what's going on in Uniform. And coming around to Division Whiskey Victor, Long Draw Road, still have the hotshot crew working up the Corral Creek drainage. They got some work left up in the top end of that to tie that drainage into some avalanche chutes and then up to tree line. And then on the west side of Division Whiskey, along the Highway 14 area, Craggs Park, they're just monitoring the fire activity. And if it reaches some trigger points down in the Joe Wright Reservoir area, then they'll initiate some dozer line over here, but they don't want to do that unless the fire reaches a certain point. Coming back around up to the structure groups. I'll start out with structure group 1 along the Highway 14 corridor. Yesterday they did end up burning off around 6 structures along Highway 14. Really very controllable operation. They worked fairly late into the night to do that burning and then just secure what they burned. So there's an unburned pocket right here that you can see, but really now that's all cleaned up. And today they'll just monitor what they lit last night, and then as needed continue down the Highway 14 as the fire dictates. And really it's just been burning up high and then backing down the steep slope toward the road. So the intent with us lighting around the structures along the Highway 14 corridor is to do the burn operations on our terms, not the fire terms. And it removes the vegetation between the main fire and the values at risk there, just to reduce impacts. If the fire does make a run, it'll stop it before it gets there. Moving up to structure group 2, 3, and 4, Crystal Lakes, Redfeather Lakes, Glacier View. They continue to have a presence there. We continue to move more resources up into that area, and they've identified some defensive lines between these communities and the main fire, and they're going to start initiating that. They are waiting on some permissions for some of that, but they've identified where they want to put control lines through structure group 2, 3, and 4. The intent with the lines on the south side of Crystal Lakes, Redfeather Lakes, and Glacier View is to put a defensive line between the fire and those communities. We may not have to use them, but we want to prepare for that based on historical weather conditions in this area. And additionally, structure group 4 has some personnel, ground crews primarily, working with chippers along the Buckhorn Road. So they're prepping that, just removing some hazardous fuels, hazardous trees, and then they'll look at working on Stove Prairie later. But again, they're focusing on the Buckhorn Road. We still have a night shift present, and during the night hours, they patrol the Highway 14 corridor in the vicinity of this fire activity, and then they also patrol Laramie River Road, the 103 road, as well as down in the Joe Wright Reservoir area, just keeping an eye on that throughout the night. And that concludes my operations briefing for September 5th. Thank you.